Part 49. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 481. Put down your gun, Li Qing stopped the people in the New World who were about to shoot to protect him. The eldest brother's words made everyone stunned, but out of trust in the eldest brother Li Qing, everyone just aimed and did not shoot. Perhaps because Li Qing's side had a large number of people, the running lion suddenly stopped 10 meters away from Li Qing, slowly lowered his body, showing his fangs, but his eyes did not blink, staring at Li Qing. "Heh." Li Qing laughed contemptuously and threw down the cigarette in his hand. Slowly took off his coat and rolled up his shirt sleeves. "You guys step back." After saying that, he threw the coat to Zhang Dongziu. "Brother." Gao Jin looked at his eldest brother worriedly. However, the crow who had followed Li Qing the longest was not worried at all, and looked at the scene with excitement. "It's been a long time since I saw the eldest brother do it himself." The crow licked his lips and said with anticipation. Zhang Dongziu nodded beside him. The last time the eldest brother did it himself was to beat up the little Day who was dancing the Awa dance. Others didn't know Li Qing's fighting power, and they all watched worriedly, fearing that the big brother would make a mistake. "Big brother, let me do it." Gao Jin pulled out the dagger from his waist and stepped forward. "Ah Jin, don't worry. I haven't had any activities for a long time. I'll play it myself. I heard that hunting a lion alone is a symbol of African warriors. This time I will also be a warrior." Li Qing smiled happily. The younger brother of the New World looked at his boss in surprise. "Big brother and such a big lion play?" Li Qing waved his hand to let the younger brothers stay away, otherwise the lion would not dare to come forward. The younger brothers of the New World took a few steps back, but they were all holding their guns nervously, and they would shoot quickly if there was any accident. Some of them even pulled out the daggers from their waists. They must not let the big brother have any accidents. "Big brother, here." Gao Jin handed the dagger in his hand to Li Qing. "No need." Everyone, even the Wude on the opposite side, was stunned by this scene. What is the opposite side trying to do? Is it so hard to think? What he is worried about now is that if David really bites the leader of the opposite side to death, his own life will also be in danger. He wants Li Qing to die, but he is also afraid of Li Qing dying. The conflicting psychology is fighting in his mind. "Hey, what are you doing? Get out of here quickly." David is very powerful. Wu Dai was still afraid of his own death, and shouted loudly. He saw David bite a person's neck off with one bite, and even the whole head fell off. Besides, at least dozens of people have died in David's mouth in the past few years. The young man on the opposite side didn't even use a knife. He didn't pretend to be so cool. The lion David saw that most of the humans on the opposite side retreated, and he could no longer suppress the call of the wild, "Hulu." A threatening sound came out of his throat. Li Qing turned his neck and made a click. Bone friction sound, stretched out his hand and hooked his finger at the lion. Because of long-term cannibalism, the lion David has long regarded humans as food, and Li Qing's provocative action directly angered it. Roar! David roared, kicked his hind legs hard, and jumped up to pounce on Li Qing. Weighing more than 230 kilograms, such weight plus sharp teeth and claws, not to mention ordinary humans, even a bison with the same weight as the lion can't stop it. Li Qing didn't have any intention of dodging the flying lion. "Brother, be careful. Brother." The people behind him shouted worriedly, and their steps rushed forward at the same time, trying to stop the lion at the first time. Suddenly Li Qing moved. He rushed forward a few steps quickly, just standing about 2 meters in front of the lion's landing point. The lion was put directly into Li Qing's arms, like throwing himself into his arms. This scene made everyone terrified. "Brother." Even the crow, who always believed that his brother was invincible, was panicked for a while, fearing that his brother would be injured. The strange thing is that the impact force that can knock ordinary people away has no effect on Li Qing at all, and his whole body does not move at all. Li Qing bent his arms directly around the neck of the lion David, and when he exerted his arms, he heard a click. The lion David's body stiffened instantly, and then the tongue in his mouth drooped down. Li Qing loosened his arms, and the lion David's huge body fell to the ground. Plop! The dull sound of heavy objects falling to the ground sounded. Brother, at this time, the end of the crow's call for the big brother was not over yet. The scene of the lion David being killed instantly shocked everyone present. They felt unreal and felt that they had just been blinded. Rubbing his eyes again, the body of the lion David was lying on the ground. Big brother, you killed the lion with your bare hands. Am I seeing it right? Oh my God, it's amazing. The eyes of the New World brother switched back and forth between the lion's body and his own big brother. Ah! I knew that the big brother was the most powerful. The crow's shouting woke everyone up. Especially the New World brothers, they saw Li Qing's strength for the first time. WTF? Wu Dai looked at the scene in disbelief. He thought about all the results and didn't expect the young man on the opposite side to kill David. Even the best hunters in Africa use traps and spears to hunt lions, but the man on the opposite side killed a mature male lion with his bare hands. Da-da-da. Footsteps sounded in the empty underground second floor. Wu Dai saw that the man was slowly walking towards him, and he suddenly felt a sense of fear in his heart. This was something he had never felt before. Under the training of his father, he began to use guns to kill people at the age of 7. As long as he had a gun in his hand, he was not afraid of anyone. Gun, yes, I still have a gun. He directly raised the gun in his hand. Who are you? No. Don't come here. Li Qing glanced at Wu Ji with disdain. Tisk tisk, so you are afraid too? You still have human emotions. I thought, you have no humanity. Li Qing pointed at the blonde hair with scalp and half of the corpse scattered in the lion cage. What do you want to do? I'm warning you, I'm going to shoot you if you come here again. Wu Xie began to sneak closer to the cage containing the Black Panther. Although the Black Panther was not as obedient as David, it could bring him a sense of security. Li Qing saw Wu Ji's movements but did not stop him and continued to walk towards Wu Ji. Wu Ji held a gun in one hand and opened the Black Panther's cage with the other. What surprised him was that the Black Panther was lying motionless in the corner. Li Qing glanced at the Black Panther, who was as obedient as a kitten. He saw the Black Panther shivering, letting out a wow sound of surrender, slowly turning around and facing the wall, never daring to look back. Wu Ji. This is a humming Black Panther. How ferocious is it when it eats people? Bah! Wu Ji dropped the gun in his hand, raised his hands and knelt on the ground. I surrender. The New World boy behind Li Qing immediately rushed up and tied him up. When it was over, they saw the scene in the lion's cage clearly. Crow punched Wu Ji in the abdomen, hitting him so hard that he spit out sour water. Damn it, I've seen a lot of people who are not human, but this is the first time I've seen such a hateful person like you. Beat him to death, you son of a bitch. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 482. Haha, Wu Yi, call your father Samu. Li Qing smiled and asked someone to hand the satellite phone to Wu Yi. At this time, Wu Ji had already been beaten by Crow, and his face was covered with bruises. This was the first time since he was born that he had been beaten severely, except for Samu. Wu Ji obediently took the satellite phone and dialed Samu's phone. Do. On the other hand, Samu looked at the phone and frowned. When something happened to Wu Ji, he had searched all the allies in the beautiful country. Either they didn't answer the phone or they were vague. During this period of time, he couldn't find anyone to help him. It was really incredible to know that he was the president of barren country. Hello? Wu Ji, hold on. Haha, Wu Ji can't hold on any longer. Li Qing said mockingly. Samu's heart sank when he heard the unfamiliar voice. Who are you? What do you want? Money. Women. He believed that the person who kidnapped his son must have a motive. The world was nothing but money and women. Who am I? Elder, you are always against me. You don't know who I am. Li Qing raised his eyebrows and chuckled. Samu was stunned when he heard this, and then realized something. Are you, Li Qing? In fact, the first time he learned about Li Qing's name was from Shuha's mouth. At that time, in his eyes, Li Qing was just a local warlord and not worth mentioning. The only thing that caught his attention was that there was a nuclear bomb on the opposite side. He could also get a nuclear bomb, but the 5 gangsters didn't allow it. In his eyes, Li Qing was a lucky boy. All kinds of opportunities came together to create the current new world and Li Qing. It's not that he was always against Li Qing, it was just that he was unhappy and caused many obstacles for the new world in some matters. As the new world grows stronger, conflicts between the two sides also accumulate. Tell me, what are the conditions? Samu said after a moment of silence. A smile floated across Li Qing's face. Let's do this, hostage exchange. My people have arrived at the exit of Bahrain and Persia. We will meet at the border one day later at this time. After saying that, he hung up the phone without waiting for Samu to speak. He believed that Samu would definitely agree. Samu had a stronger affection for Wu Ji than any other son. When Samu was imprisoned, it was through the infant Wu Ji that the news spread and the coup was launched. He has always trained Wu Ji as his successor. Let's go. Li Qing threw the satellite phone in his hand to Zhang Dongzhou and walked upstairs first. Zhang Dongzhou passed by the body of the lion David and told his men, take care of this lion and give me a lion skin. Crow glanced at Zhang Dongzhou and asked curiously, what do you want that thing for? Let me make a lion skin cushion for my eldest brother, Zhang Dongzhou said calmly. The crow next to him was stunned, and slapped himself. Maid, it's too late again, why didn't I think of it? After speaking, he glared at Zhang Dongzhou. Flattery. Zhang Dongzhou spread his hands and shrugged, then followed Li Qing with an indifferent expression. Hey, you guys kill that Black Panther, get the skin ready and send it to me. Although it was a step late, Crow felt that the Black Panther skin was much more valuable than the lion skin. Arthur also received a message from boss Li Qing at the same time, asking him to wait at the exit at this time tomorrow. What? You mean your boss asked us to go out of the customs? He took care of the matter. Barney asked in surprise. He didn't believe that Li Qing could handle everything in such a short period of time. Could a head of state compromise so easily? He was very curious about what methods Li Qing used. Well, there's no need to doubt the boss's ability. It will be revealed tomorrow. John glanced at Barney, who was full of disbelief. He and Arthur believed from beginning to end that boss Li Qing had such ability. At this time, Samu, who was thousands of kilometers away, was furious and even smashed his office to pieces. No one has ever dared to threaten me like this. Samu smashed the last piece of porcelain in the office and roared loudly. All the guards shrank their necks and did not dare to speak. Samu is very shrewd and can guess from Li Qing's words that the assassination must have been planned by Li Qing, otherwise he would not be so concerned about those people. It's been so long and you haven't found it yet? Are you just doing it for a living? What makes Samu even more angry is that his troops are incompetent, and no trace of the assassins has been found yet. Samu vented for a moment, and his face gradually calmed down. He knew that it would be useless to lose his temper again. Call Major General Levi of the Republican Guard. I have something to ask him. Samu immediately ordered his assistant. The assistant did not dare to delay and directly informed Major General Levi of the guards to come. The next day, the weather was a little hazy, but the wind and sand were still as strong as ever. At this time, The atmosphere at the Kata exit to the west of Persia and Bahrain was extremely solemn. This is not only because the two countries are feuding, but also because of a special incident. On both sides of the exit, a large number of soldiers were standing ready, and armored vehicles and tanks could even be vaguely seen in the distance. Li Qing was chatting and laughing with the Persian Minister of Defense. It seemed that the Persian Minister of Defense was a little flattering. After all, not every arms dealer can get a Chinese J-7 fighter easily. You know, all the countries in the Middle East envy Baba Yang for owning a Chinese J-7. This time, Li Qing promised to get 10 J-7s for Persia. The unexpected surprise made Persia cherish it even more. You know, Persia is always facing the threat of barren state. More air combat forces will increase Persia's sense of security. What's more, Li Qing helped coordinate the training of J-7 pilots, which made Persia pay more attention to him. After all, it's not a loss to make friends with such a powerful arms dealer. For this incident, the Minister of Defense was dispatched to accompany him. At 3:20 p.m., John and others' convoy appeared at the exit on time and was surrounded by the army of barren state in an instant. But John and others were not panicked at all. They also saw the movements on the Persian side. Barren state would not do anything extreme. Crow and others directly pressed the bruised Wu Dai to the exit. On the other side, John and others also abandoned the car and were escorted by the soldiers of barren state. Li Qing and Samu both had a tacit understanding and did not show up, fearing that the other side had snipers. They were both people of the way of the living, and a gentleman would not stand under a dangerous wall. They understood this better than anyone else. The two sides successfully completed the hostage exchange without any more troubles. After all, this was on the Persian border. Although he wanted to get rid of Li Qing, Baron was now in trouble both internally and externally, and Samu did not want to cause a war with Persia. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 483. Li Qing looked at John and Arthur who were walking slowly and laughed, not bad, no missing limbs. He stepped forward and patted John and Arthur on the shoulders. Arthur and John looked embarrassed. After all, the mission was not completed, and they had to trouble the boss to use all kinds of connections to save them. Seeing such a big battle on the Persian side, they all thought that the boss must have spent a lot of money. You know, Persia hated white people at this time. Sorry, boss. The mission failed. Arthur looked guilty. Don't worry, this mission is very difficult, and the goal this time has been achieved. Look, Samu doesn't even dare to show up now, Li Qing said with a smile. Indeed, being able to almost assassinate Samu in barren country, the ability is already very good. The new world has shown its muscles. If Samu is sensible, he will be quiet for a long time. However, we also have unexpected gains, Arthur said meaningfully. Oh, Li Qing showed a curious expression. Boss, we killed Shuha, John explained with a grin. Li Qing raised his eyebrows. Shuha had been looking for him for a long time, but he didn't expect him to run to barren country and be under the protection of Samu. No wonder he couldn't find him. Good, not bad, not bad, Li Qing laughed and said with relief. Shuha killed so many Chinese in Java, and Li Qing was looking for him everywhere to comfort the souls of those Chinese in heaven. It's just a pity that he didn't kill him personally, but when the news of Shuha's death spread to the autonomous province, people would definitely celebrate. And Arthur smiled mysteriously. Well, there's more. John pulled out a man wearing camouflage clothes and a hat from behind. John took off the man's hat, and a face that was almost exactly the same as Samu appeared in front of Li Qing. Boss, this is Miha, Samu's stand-in. Li Qing was stunned for a few seconds, and chuckled, "You actually got Samu's stand-in, great." In just a few seconds, Li Qing realized the importance of Samu's stand-in. This Miha must know some unknown secrets. These secrets may not be so important to himself, but they are indeed very useful to countries such as China and the United States. After all, it involves the game between countries. Sometimes just an inconspicuous piece of news can allow a country to gain the initiative in the international arena. "Ajin, take this Miha away," Li Qing ordered. "New World will sooner or later dig out all the information he knows after getting this person." As for how to deal with Miha, Li Qing also has a plan in mind. One piece of news will be sent to his hometown, and Miha can be handed over to the United States. If Li Qing wants to mediate between the big countries, he must show his value. The affection will run out one day, and only continuous superposition can maintain this relationship. Barney and his companions came forward after seeing John and the other two finish their report. "Mr. Li, I'm sorry, this mission failed. Thank you for saving us." The Suicide Squad suffered a heavy loss this time. Not only did they lose two good players, but the mission was not completed. The failure of this mission will undoubtedly lower the ranking of the Suicide Squad. Coupled with the compensation of the two teammates, it will take a long time for the entire team to recover. "Barney Ross, I've heard of you. Are you interested in coming to the New World?" Li Qing smiled at Barney and extended an olive branch. Barney was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Li Qing to suddenly invite them to join. After a moment of silence, Barney still didn't want to get involved in gang fights. Joining the New World certainly has many benefits. With this backer, the Suicide Squad will develop faster. But the disadvantages are also obvious. Being bound by the rules of the New World, they can't accept orders at will, and their personal profits will decrease. In his opinion, it is better to maintain the status quo. It's better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. At least the current Suicide Squad has the final say. Once they join the New World, it will definitely be Li Qing who has the final say. "Thank you, Mr. Li, I still think it's better this way." Barney rejected Li Qing's kindness. Then he quickly said, "Don't worry, I will return the deposit to you." Li Qing didn't force it, and nodded with a smile, "Forget it, the deposit will be kept for the dead brothers. The door to the New World is always open to you. If you have any difficulties, you can contact me in time." Some of the team members behind him looked different, and they stammered and said nothing. For ordinary team members, it doesn't matter who they follow. If they follow the New World, they may earn more. But now that Barney refused, they couldn't say anything. Li Qing and the Persian defense minister agreed on the time for the next meeting, and they didn't stay long and flew out of Persia directly. Gao Jin handed a cup of coffee to Meha. "You are in your current situation, I think you know very well, Samu will chase you at all costs. Once you leave our field of vision, your head will be instantly pierced by bullets." Gao Jin threatened Meha with words. Meha trembled as he picked up the coffee, as if only the heat of the coffee cup could bring him a little warmth. "I know, don't worry. I will tell you everything I know, as long as you can guarantee my safety," Meha whispered. Although he didn't know much about the New World organization, he had heard from Samu that it should not be a small force. There is no other way now, he can only pin his hopes on the New World. As Samu's substitute, he naturally knows the devil's methods. "I was originally an elementary school teacher. Samu killed my wife and son to make me become his substitute honestly. He made me look like this through plastic surgery. Sometimes I really want to scratch my face," Miha cried. In order to make Gao Jin believe him, he expressed his hatred for Samu. Gao Jin nodded, "Let's start. Samu has a total of 6 substitutes, which are used in different occasions. I am responsible for the military. I have some understanding of the entire military strength of Baron, and even know some military secrets. Miha told him what he knew. 2 days later, Gao Jin came to the villa with dark circles under his eyes and a happy face, holding a stack of information. "Brother, it's all here, everything Miha knows." Gao Jin was a little excited. It seems that there is something big in it. Li Qing took the information curiously. People have a voyeuristic mentality, and he also wanted to know what secrets Samu has. Uncovering the first file, this file is about Samu's personal life. According to what Miha knows, Samu and his 2 sons all like beautiful women. Samu himself built a palace for his mistresses to live in, and he was like an emperor, sleeping with whoever he wanted at night. Li Qing didn't care about these, just treated them as a little story, reading with relish, but as he slowly turned down, his expression became more and more serious, and even showed an incredible expression on his face when he turned to the end. He raised the last file in his hand. "Ajin, are you sure this file is true? Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all." Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 484. "Brother, I can't believe it either. But Meha said it in detail, I have to believe it." Gao Jin nodded. Li Qing focused his attention again on the title of this material. Samu did not hesitate to use the oil industry to cooperate with Gaul in order to manufacture nuclear weapons. Haha, it seems that Gaul, the younger brother of the beautiful country, also has second thoughts. Although Li Qing didn't know the content of the deal, he could guess that Samu must have spent a lot of money to convince Gaul to help him research nuclear weapons. Bahrain is located in the Middle East and is considered a relatively powerful country in the Middle East. But Bahrain had a fierce rival, and that was Hebrews. Although Hebrew is a small country in the Middle East, it can be regarded as a die-hard brother of the beautiful country and one of the very few nuclear countries in the world. The total number of Hebrew nuclear weapons is estimated to be between 250 and 500, so its international status is not low. It is precisely because Samu is constantly threatened by the beautiful kingdom and Hebrews that he also wants to become a country with nuclear strike capabilities. As long as he has nuclear weapons, he feels that he is truly safe. As the old saying goes, most relationships in this world are based on interests and values. Gaul Chicken clearly knows that Ying Zhang is dissatisfied with Samu, and secretly hooks up with Samu in private. The interests involved here are definitely not small. Li Qing was very curious, what would the expressions of the top management of the beautiful country be like when they found out about this? Surprised? Anger? Sad? Maybe both, but this news is of great use to Li Qing, as he can build another wave of favorability between his hometown and Yingjiang. The beautiful country Buddha Bowl is not a fool. If he knows that he has got a substitute for Samu, he will definitely come and ask for it. Fortunately, he came back by private plane. He probably hadn't reacted yet, so he might as well send him out quickly. However, there is a big deal about who to give it to when sending it home. Li Qing did not intend to give it to Fo Bowl. He wanted to contact the military directly. After all, it was the military of the United States that had always shown goodwill to him, and he wanted to reciprocate the kindness. After thinking about it, Li Qing said to Gao Jin, "Ajin, bring Miha." Gao Jin didn't hesitate and turned around to lead the people. A few minutes later, Miha stood in front of Li Qing with some restraint. He knew that the person in front of him was the person who could decide his life or death. Seeing Li Qing, he unconsciously felt frightened. "Miha, I want to hand you over to the beautiful country's military," Li Qing said straight to the point. "There is no need to hide this kind of thing, and it cannot be hidden." Li Qing's frankness made Miha not know what to say. She just nodded blankly. "You may have to live under the surveillance of the beautiful country from now on, but don't worry, your life is absolutely guaranteed. In the beautiful country, the military cannot protect you for life, but the New World can," Li Qing said firmly. Miha nodded slightly doubtfully. He didn't know why Li Qing said this. Li Qing continued, so I hope that if anyone asks, you will just say that you did not tell me this information. After listening to Li Qing's words, Miha understood instantly, don't worry, you will never be involved. If they ask, I will tell you nothing. Li Qing nodded with satisfaction. It was easy to talk to smart people. If you say this, he has no control over whether the other party believes it or not. As long as the person involved does not admit it, others will not dare to blame it. Asking Gao Jin to take Miha down, Li Qing immediately called William, the deputy minister of the beautiful country. Minister William, long time no see. There is something that I don't know if you are interested in. After listening to Li Qing's words, Deputy Minister William on the opposite side was silent for a moment and sighed, Li Qing, are you really not interested in becoming a citizen of the United States? William asked the question again. The answer I received was still firm, Minister William, my nationality will never change. I will always be Chinese. Even if I die, I will be buried in China. When William heard Li Qing's answer, he sighed again. He personally invited not one, but 2 Chinese people to naturalize, and every high-level talent agreed happily and without hesitation. Only Li Qing didn't seem to care about the nationality of the beautiful country, and his tone was even a bit contemptuous. This was one of the things he couldn't see through Li Qing. He hung up the phone and muttered in a low voice, tisk tisk, I didn't expect an arms dealer to be so patriotic. If there were more people like this in the beautiful country, I'm afraid it would have unified the world long ago. The military of the beautiful country was much more anxious than Li Qing imagined. Within half an hour after hanging up the phone, military representatives rushed to Li Qing's villa. Sir, I am Lieutenant Colonel Wei Lin of the United States Joint Staff Guard, and I have been ordered to perform a mission. A bald black lieutenant colonel came and saluted Li Qing without saying a word. Li Qing handed Miha directly to Lieutenant Colonel Wellin without any further hesitation. Watching several military vehicles disappear outside the villa, Li Qing muttered in a low voice, it seems that the military attaché's great importance to Merlin, and Fu Bol is afraid that he will be anxious. His guess was correct. Just over 10 minutes later, beautiful country Buddha Bol also came to his villa. Mr. Li Qing, I heard that you have someone here who is Samu's substitute. I wonder if it would be convenient for him to come with us. Don't worry, I will ensure his safety. The person who came was a middle-aged man with messy hair and a tired look. I really can't help you with this matter. The US military picked him up just 10 minutes ago. Li Qing spread his hands, saying that you were late and there was nothing I could do. Ah, the middle-aged man showed a surprised expression. He didn't expect the military to act so quickly. You know, I rushed here as soon as I received the news, but I didn't expect to be a step late. The middle-aged Fabuloso looked at Li Qing suspiciously, okay, excuse me, Mr. Li. After turning around, his face immediately became gloomy. He was sure that Li Qing must have informed the military in advance, otherwise the military would not have known the news. But he couldn't do anything about Li Qing. Li Qing had a good relationship with the military. Not to mention him, even his boss's boss had to get permission from the military before he could move Li Qing. After Fabuloso left, Li Qing immediately called Qi Gang through the satellite phone. Hello? Brother Li Qing, how come you have time to call me? Qi Gang's hearty laughter came. Haha, it's nothing serious. I just brought some local specialties for our daughter. One of my subordinates is going back to Java and is transiting at Kyoto Airport. I asked him to bring it back to you. Li Qing said obscurely. Qi Gang understood Li Qing's meaning immediately, because he had no daughter but only a son. Last time Li Qing went to Beijing, he brought a gift to his son. Hey, that's great. My daughter is always asking to see you. She says she misses you, Qi Gang said without hesitation. The two of them communicated for a while and hung up the phone. Li Qing called Gao Jin indirectly, Jin, you haven't been back home for a long time, right? So you can take the information back to Brother Chi Gang and go see Xiao Wan by the way. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 485. Office of the Undersecretary of Defense, Hexagon Building, Beautiful Country. William's face was ashen as he looked through the information that the staff had pried out of Meha's mouth. He did not expect that Gao Lu, who had always been a loyal brother of the Beautiful Country, would secretly be in cahoots with the targets of the Beautiful Country's sanctions. In the name of aiding the construction of nuclear power plants, he helped Samu research nuclear bombs. The most important point is that Gaul actually touched the Middle East oil. The whole world knows that the Beautiful Country has always used Middle East oil as its private property, and the Gallic chicken secretly extended its claws. What's the humming difference between this and seducing your sister-in-law? The angry William stood up directly and walked to the office of the Minister of Defense with the information. He knew that the minister was now in the office waiting for the results. Li Qing also knew that the Beautiful Country would take action, but he did not expect that the action would come so quickly and have such a big impact. First, the Beautiful Country's die-hard brother in the Middle East, the Hebrew Kingdom, used a well-known secret service organization to blow up the enriched uranium secretly hidden in Gaul by the Baron Kingdom, and then used a honey trap to assassinate Misha, the chief scientist of the Baron Kingdom. Finally, in the early morning of late September, the Hebrew Air Force flew directly over Jordan at an ultra-low altitude and sneaked into Bahrain, directly blowing up 2 nuclear reactors in Bahrain. This action caused an uproar internationally, but what surprised everyone was that the Baron country did not take any countermeasures and instead swallowed this bitter pill. The United States began to impose sanctions on Gaul quietly. First, the Ministry of Trade of the United States announced an additional 25% tariff on some Gaul products worth $5 billion. In addition, the United States Department of Justice also fined a Gallic company up to $1 billion. The reason is that this company is suspected of supporting terrorism and has paid millions of dollars in protection fees to terrorist organizations in the Middle East. Finally, the Beautiful Country also confiscated a large number of famous Gaul wines due to quality issues. These combinations of punches stunned Baranguo and Gaul chicken. After Gaul was sanctioned, all scientific researchers in Bahrain were honestly transferred back. Samu is even mute and eats Coptis chinensis and dare not say a word. Li Qingdu couldn't help but admire the power of the Beautiful Country. The main reason was that the Beautiful Country had so many resources that it could make Gaul and Bahrain suffer. Different from the bitter faces of the two countries, Li Qing has gained favor from the military of the Beautiful Country. The Ministry of National Defense of the Beautiful Country continued to add a batch of military orders with a stroke of a pen. Of course, these orders are not for the Beautiful Country itself. The Beautiful Country secretly funds some organizations around the world, and these arms are prepared for them. Li Qing accepted the offer unceremoniously and immediately contacted Qi Gang from his hometown. "Brother Qi, have you received the things?" Li Qing asked with a smile. Beautiful Country imposed sanctions too quickly, and the information was received when Beautiful Country began to sanction Gaul and Bahrain. "I got it, he. I made a lot of money from selling the specialties from my hometown," Qi Gang said cryptically with a smile. Although the news was received later than the Beautiful Country, it was faster than other countries. "My hometown still made a fortune in international oil. There may be other benefits, but Qi Gang was too embarrassed to elaborate on them on the phone. Li Qing knew from Qi Gang's tone that his hometown must have used this information. "Well, send me 2 more copies of your hometown's specialties," Li Qing said cheerfully. This sentence made Qi Gang stunned for a moment, but after a few seconds he realized what the specialty Li Qing was talking about. "Ahem, okay, the more the merrier, how about I give you 2 more? You can give it to a friend or something." Qi Gang smiled so hard that his teeth bared. When Li Qing heard this, he immediately became confused. 2 more warehouses wouldn't be enough to store it? No, I'm going to finish eating, and I'll ask you for more. Okay, that's it? Li Qing quickly hung up the phone, fearing that he would sell his hometown's 3-piece specialty set again. After finishing all this, Li Qing leaned his head on the chair, closed his eyes and thought about his current resources. First of all, the territory. Southeast Asia is the basic territory. The Java Chinese Autonomous Region has now slowly radiated to surrounding countries, and Yanran will rise to become the economic center of Southeast Asia. In the early days, the Aokigumi's sphere of influence was mainly Tokyo, but it has also been slowly eroding the Yamaguchi-gumi in various places. South Korea's Kinmen Group has completely taken control of Seoul and has become the underground overlord of Seoul. Mao Zedong has also become a new chaebol and can also influence South Korea's strategy in some aspects. In Wanwan, the New World has occupied half of Taipei's territory, and its status in the province has surpassed that of the Sanlian Gang. There are relatively few sites in the beautiful country, and most of them are outside Chinatown. Secondly, in terms of industrial development in the New World, the bulk of it is naturally the arms industry, which includes manufacturing, smuggling, sales and other links. It is already a mature arms dealer with a complete industrial chain and safe channels. In the rubber industry, New World Group has basically monopolized rubber in Southeast Asia. What surprised Li Qing was that Daewoo and Ergo not only did the magazine well, but even the Dragon Power condoms entered the world market and are now as famous as Durex, Akamoto, and James Bond. South Korea's New World Heavy Industries, 1/3 of Fengtian's shares and 1/4 of Panasonic's shares in Zai are now in the period of exerting their strength, and they will continue to bring benefits to New World Group. However, the most promising industry under New World is the new electronic industry. TSMC, South Korea's New World Electronics, and the Banana Company of the United States have worked together to form a complete industrial chain, which has already emerged in the world. The gambling industry under New World is also a money printing machine. It not only involves the Macau Casino and the Los Casino, but since New World has taken over the Shell family industry, it has its own casino industry in major casinos. There is also Hong Kong Telecom. Li Qing does not rely on it to make money. Sometimes this represents a kind of standing in line, and also symbolizes a kind of trust. The trust of the old family in him. Finally, there is the New World Hotel. Li Qing defines the New World Hotel as a tool to open the prestige of the New World. Now the New World Hotel is also developing very well. It has completely replaced the status of mainland hotels in Southeast Asia and East Asia, and it is also stepping up to squeeze the living space of mainland hotels in the United States. In South America, the New World Hotel is also being laid out. I believe that it will develop soon. Finally, there is the invisible force behind Li Qing. Among the 5 gangsters, there are the old family and the United States. These two support him behind the scenes. In addition, Li Qing is also a big arms dealer. Not to mention Southeast Asian countries, he can also talk about South America and Africa. The Middle East is a bit complicated. Li Qing doesn't want to get involved. Generally, Yuri comes forward. Li Qing sighed. He didn't expect to conquer such a large territory and industry in these years. But the New World has always been blank in 2 places, one is Europe, and the other is Australia. Europe is because there are too many forces, and it involves its ally Camorra. Now the 2 organizations are in a honeymoon period, so Li Qing can't make a move. The other Australia, well, Li Qing admitted that he did forget it. Dongzhou, which organization did the Australian who I met on the Great Wall last time belong to? Li Qing raised his head and looked at Zhang Dongzhou who was sitting next to him and asked. Brother, I know, it seems to be called 4K Party. Crow took the opportunity to interrupt, showing his memory. Really, Li Qing doubted Crow's answer. He didn't remember hearing the name 4K. At this time, Zhang Dongzhou took the phone and looked for it. Brother, it's called 4R, the leader of the other party is Franks, and they seem to owe us a few casinos. Li Cheng. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 486. Yuri, who was eating the wind and sand in the goat country, finally waited for the trading time. He had stayed here long enough. Yuri, when will the plane arrive? A bearded Middle Eastern man asked anxiously in front of Yuri. Yuri frowned and walked a few steps to the side. He was obviously suffocated by the smell of the Middle Eastern bearded man. Yuri's daily dishes in the goat country must include mutton. He wanted to vomit when he smelled the smell of mutton. Stay away from me, Mohammed, Yuri said dissatisfiedly, and then looked at his watch. It should be soon. The boss should be talking about this time. Just after he finished speaking, several large transport planes flew in from a distance. Fortunately, Yuri had someone clear the airport in advance, otherwise it would really not be able to stop. The plane was getting closer and closer, and slowly landed at the temporary airport built in this beautiful country. The door of the plane opened, and a middle-aged man in camouflage clothes walked out from it. Yuri and others hurried forward. Hello, I'm Yuri. You are? Hello, Mr. Yuri. The middle-aged man smiled and did not answer Yuri. He just pointed to the neat wooden boxes in the cabin. Mr. Yuri, this is the first batch of goods, and the next few batches will arrive in the next 2 days. Yuri was not in a hurry, but Mohammed behind him kept rubbing his hands, looking anxious. Sir, can we take a look first? The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows. Please. Mohammed couldn't wait to let his men behind him pry open the box, and saw a row of brand new AK-47s neatly placed in the box. He could still smell the smell of gun oil, and took out a gun at random. Click. Pulled the bolt, and pulled the trigger to make a crisp sound. Good gun. Finally, it was not second-hand goods. The guns Mohammed received before were all mixed, and even end-hand goods. It's okay that the accuracy is not high, but the main thing is that the guns always explode. Sometimes the subordinates injured by the explosions are more than those injured by the opponents. Of course it's a good gun. These guns are just out of the factory. Yuri patted the excited Mohammed. As one of the many leaders supported by the United States in the goat country, Mohammed has seen many arms dealers who pass off inferior products as good ones. This time, he was also afraid that the other party would pass off inferior products as good ones. If that was the case, he would have to hold his nose and endure it. After all, it was the order placed by the father of the United States, and he couldn't afford to offend. Mohammed waved his hand, and a young man in a long gown ran over with 2 small bags. Mohammed stuffed a bag into Yuri and the middle-aged man's hands. This is a thank you to the 2 of you. Please accept it if it's not worth money. Yuri curled his lips. Mohammed had never given him anything for such a long time. He didn't expect that the stingy Mohammed would give him a gift as soon as the goods arrived. Yuri opened the bag curiously, and saw that the unpolished sapphires of various sizes filled half of the bag. Kabul sapphire, Yuri chuckled. Kabul sapphire is indeed a specialty of the goat country, or more precisely, of the Kabul province of the goat country. The Egyptian pharaohs liked this gem very much in the early days and inlaid it on their scepters. This small bag, as long as it can be taken out of the goat country, can indeed be said to be valuable. The cargo on several transport planes was quickly moved, and the middle-aged man in camouflage nodded to Yuri and Mohammed, and flew away with his men. He only greeted Yuri when he came, and didn't speak from beginning to end. Lord Mohammed. The subordinate called Mohammed in a low voice. What's wrong? Look. The subordinate took a bag of sapphires that Mohammed gave to the man. I found it in the box. Mohammed and Yuri looked at each other in surprise. In this era, there are people who don't love money. Yuri's face became serious, and he more or less guessed the man's origin. It should be someone from the Chinese military. Only the Chinese military has such strict discipline. In the next few days, several large transport planes came one after another, and they quickly left after completing the transaction of all the goods without any delay. Yuri and Mohammed smoked cigars and looked at the sunset in the distance. The shepherds who were grazing sheep under the sunset were driving a flock of sheep back to the circle. "Yuri, are you leaving tomorrow?" Mohammed looked reluctant. These days, the two have become friends. Although Yuri dislikes the smell on him all day long, he is still a little reluctant. "Alas, Mohammed, I hope you won't hate me in the future." Yuri exhaled a long column of smoke. As a qualified arms dealer, he should not have such emotions, but people are all flesh and blood. These days, I often hang out with Mohammed, and the friendship between the two has deepened. The future of the goat country is bound to become a state of warlord separatism. It's okay when the United States is there. What if one day the United States changes its strategy and withdraws from the goat country? By then, people like Mohammed will be purged sooner or later. "Mohammed, have you considered emigrating?" Yuri coughed. "Yuri, I am a fish in the net now. I can't escape. This is my country, and I don't want to leave." Mohammed knows his situation, but he chooses his own path, either to become the spokesperson of the beautiful country or to be wiped out by the goat country. For the sake of his people, he can only fight for his life. "You know my phone number, call me if you need anything. I will definitely find a way to help you." Yuri threw down a small half of the cigar and looked at Mohammed seriously. "I will." Both of them were silent, leaning against the car door and looking at the blood-red clouds in the sky. They all knew that once the war started, their lives would not be in their hands. The entire goat country would be plunged into war, and by then there would be corpses everywhere and lives would be in turmoil. The next day, with Mohammed's farewell, Yuri boarded the private plane sent by boss Li Qing to pick him up. This was also the last plane to safely fly out of goat country. The day after Yuri left goat country, the NATO group, led by the United States, brazenly launched an air strike on Kab, the capital of goat country, and blew up military bases in the surrounding areas. At the same time, the pro-American forces in goat country launched uprisings in various places, and the tribal forces led by Mohammed quickly occupied most of Kabul province. The goat country war officially broke out. At this time, no one could have imagined that this war would last for more than 10 years, except Li Qing. At this time, in Li Qing's villa in Gotham, Li Qing was watching the news about the outbreak of the war on TV with his core members. On TV, the attitude of the American people is mostly supportive of the American country. After all, the Twin Towers incident was too tragic. Until now, the American country is still cleaning up the ruins of the Twin Towers, and the piles of bones inside make the American people hate the goat country even more. Li Qing let out a long breath and shook his head. After all, the fight broke out. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 487. It should be beaten, Mater. The Twin Towers incident was so miserable for me. The building was falling, and the people who jumped from the building were like dumplings. The crow muttered quietly. Li Qing shook his head when he heard this. "Crow, don't look at the problem one-sidedly. What you see now is only what the beautiful country allows you to see. The whole world knows about the Twin Towers incident, and it is natural for the beautiful country to take revenge. This situation is so similar to the Pearl Harbor incident that year. When all the younger brothers heard what their elder brother Li Qing said, they were stunned for a moment. When they thought about it again, it was indeed like this. The sources of information are different, and the depth of understanding of the problem is also different. Ordinary people, because of the overwhelming publicity of the Twin Towers incident in the beautiful country. Most people sympathize with the beautiful country, and some even think that the war in the goat country is a just act. This is the result that the beautiful country wants, which just gives it a reason to intervene in the Middle East. The first batch of US troops to enter the goat country were the Blue Berets, the famous special forces of the United States, which also marked the official participation of the United States in the Middle East War. With the outbreak of the war, the international crude oil market began to be turbulent, and the price of crude oil rose rapidly, allowing speculators in Arab countries and beautiful countries to make a lot of money. The capital of China, the General Staff Headquarters. I didn't expect that the Goat Kingdom regime was driven out of the capital after not lasting more than a month, a certain military boss said with a smile while smoking a cigarette. Alas, there is a problem with the Goat country's strategy. It actually chose to confront the beautiful country head-on. Tisk tisk, your courage is commendable. I have carefully studied the terrain of the Goat country. If the Goat country follows the great man's guerrilla strategy, it will sooner or later bring down the United States like Yunnan. The military bosses are prepared for danger in times of peace and have been studying the military strategy of the beautiful country. They even put themselves into the role of the Goat country to find ways to deal with the beautiful country. Hey, Laozo, why don't you say anything? A boss glanced curiously at the taciturn Zhou Feng. Ahem, I'm wondering if that plan is about to be implemented. I'm afraid that the Goat country won't last long, and the beautiful country will definitely stop us by then. Besides, it will take a long time for that thing to be shipped to me. After careful consideration, the left-winger expressed his thoughts. As soon as these words came out, the entire conference room fell silent, and the only sounds that could be heard were the smoking and blowing out of smoke by the bosses. How's the coordination going with Mao? Asked the boss sitting in seat C. I said over there that I can definitely sell it, but it will only be empty shells. Mao is also afraid of being deceived by Ying Zhang. The general who replied shook his head. In fact, Mao wanted to sell the Variang to MaleProtagonist at first, and MaleProtagonist agreed, but MaleProtagonist only wanted equipment, not empty shells of scrap metal. After Mao dismantled all the equipment, the beautiful country went back on its word and didn't want it anymore. At this time, the Chinese country extended an olive branch. Mao simply sold it directly to China without stopping. You must know that at this time, under the leadership of the beautiful country, almost all countries were militarily isolating China. Even if it is just an empty shell, it will be very helpful to the development of China's military. But, there is still a nominal bidding, and the requirement is that the bidding must be private. Mao didn't dare to blatantly offend the beautiful country. Is there any good candidate? The boss crushed his cigarette in the ashtray. The best candidate is Li Qing from the New World Group. There are still options available, but you have to register a shell company first. The general who replied glanced at Zhou Feng. As soon as these words came out, all eyes were on Zhou Feng. Why are you looking at me? I don't care. What they did last time was not honest. I can't open my mouth. Zhou Feng rolled his eyes, letting himself do all the good and bad things. The C boss frowned. What's going on? Zhou Feng talked about stabbing him in the back and increasing the number of foreign investors in gambling. Humph, it's getting more and more excessive. Don't worry, I will personally handle this matter and I must give an explanation to Li Qing. However, now it seems that Li Qing is indeed the best candidate. Xiaozhou, please contact me first. If that doesn't work, we'll find someone else. The C boss thought for a while and said. Okay, Minister. Alas, there are very few patriotic people like Li Qing. It was him who sent the information about barren country last time. Zhou Feng also praised Li Qing without hesitation. If there were more patriots like Li Qing, why would China be unable to strengthen itself? The C boss nodded solemnly. After the meeting, Zhou Feng did not dare to delay and contacted Qi Gang directly. This matter was too important to discuss over the phone, so Qi Gang directly invited Li Qing to have an interview with Xiang Zhang. Fortunately, Li Qing had a private plane and arrived in Xiangjiang quickly. As soon as Li Qing got off the plane, he saw Qi Gang standing under the plane, with a domestically produced hunky car next to him. "Brother Qi, what's the important matter?" Li Qing looked at Qi Gang with a smile, his face a little anxious. Qi Gang took 2 steps forward, grabbed Li Qing's arm and walked towards the car. "Let's go, brother, let's talk in the car." Li Qing was helplessly pulled into the red flag car, and Wu Wu and others followed and got into the car behind. "What can't you say over the phone?" Li Qing also felt a little strange, thinking that he was not so careful when he was working on the instructions. "Brother, this hunky car is specially made so you don't have to worry about being eavesdropped." Qi Gang patted the car window and said. Li Qing glanced at Qi Gang in surprise, so cautious. "Ahem." Qi Gang cleared his throat. "Brother, I'm here on behalf of the big boss this time." "Big boss?" Li Qing instantly realized that it should be that person. Li Qing's expression became serious when he heard this, and he knew that this matter must be no small matter. "Brother, do you know that Mao inherited an aircraft carrier with 68% progress from the Russian Bear?" Li Qing's eyes condensed. "Variag." Of course he knew about this matter. When the Variag returned in the previous life, it was on the news. Almost all Chinese people were overjoyed, and many places set off firecrackers. "I've heard of it." Li Qing nodded. "We have to get it back." Qi Gang's face became extremely firm, and he stretched out his right hand and clenched his fist tightly. Aircraft carriers are the core of maritime combat power. Now basically all military powers have aircraft carriers. Only China has not made any progress in aircraft carrier research due to the technological blockade of the United States. You have to know that we have entered the 21st century. The strength of the Navy represents the deterrent power of a country's long-distance navigation. To put it bluntly, once China has an aircraft carrier, Somali pirates will have to go around Chinese merchant ships. Secondly, it has a great impact on the situation in the South China Sea and the East China Sea. After all, China has a long coastline, and some small countries always like to do some sneaky things. "So brother, you will help us, right?" Qi Gang asked expectantly. Li Qing smiled. "Brother Qi, I am also a Chinese. This is my own business, there is no need to help or not. It is our duty to rebuild the glory of China." Qi Gang felt a little excited after hearing this, and his face began to flush. Okay. I knew, it's a good duty. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 488. What? Brother Qi, you said Mao only sold us empty shells, Li Qing asked with a frown. In the last life, he heard in the news that Mao sold an empty shell. He thought Mao secretly sold the equipment inside to China. I didn't expect this to be true, and I actually just bought an empty shell. Well, let's do it bit by bit. We have a framework first, and then we can talk about other things. There is a big gap between us and the beautiful country in aircraft carrier construction. Qi Gang let out a long sigh. Li Qing touched his forehead and said, "This is not a small gap, this is a big gap, okay." It is hard to imagine how difficult the situation was in China in the previous life. With its own efforts, China launched 3 aircraft carriers from scratch in just 5 or 6 years. Li Qing secretly clenched his fists and decided to do his best to help the country within his own capabilities. "Brother Qi, I believe that we will gradually become stronger in 10 or 20 years. Qi Gang thought Li Qing was comforting him, but he didn't know that Li Qing was actually explaining a fact. "When should I set off?" Li Qing knew that time was urgent and could not be delayed. "Brother, let me reply to my family first. I'll contact Mao at home and we'll hold an auction at that time. I guess it will be a week later. Qi Gang thought for a while and gave an approximate time. Li Qing nodded, okay, brother Qi, I'll wait for your news. The red flag car took Li Qing directly to the door of his villa. Brother, bring something good for your younger siblings. This is the donkey hide gelatin your sister-in-law brought from her hometown. It is very good for women's health. Qi Gang directly slipped out a large box from the trunk. The box was full of women's nourishing products such as donkey hide gelatin ointment. At first glance, it seems that it is not a gift bought in a store, but specially made using local techniques. Li Qing took the box directly from Qi Gang. There was no need to be so polite in their relationship. You won't go in. Time is urgent, let's talk next time. Qi Gang came and went in a hurry, and Li Qing knew that he had a hot temper and didn't care. Seeing the red flag car disappear from sight, Li Qingke smiled and said, let's go, your sister-in-law is making white fungus and lotus seed soup at home. Zhang Dongzhou and Wu Wu stepped forward and quickly took the box from Li Qing's hand and followed them in. Why did you come back so suddenly this time and you didn't notify me earlier? Hong Kong Sheng looked at Li Qing angrily and stepped forward to help him take off his coat. Dongzhou, Crow, put your things down, I'll sort them out later. Come, have some soup with your big brother. Hong Kong students quickly greeted Zhang Dongzhou and Wu Wu. Both of them smiled innocently, hey, come right away, sister-in-law. Both of them were very knowledgeable and left in a hurry after drinking the soup without staying long. Before leaving, Hong Kong students brought them 2 bags filled with donkey hide gelatin and asked them to take them back. As soon as he went out, Wu Yao looked at the donkey hide gelatin in the bag blankly. Xiu'er, how about you take this donkey hide gelatin back to the young lawyer? He is just a bachelor, and it is not easy for him to give things given by his sister-in-law to those who have casual relationships. Zhang Dongzhou pouted and picked up the bag. I have it, you'd better eat it yourself. Crow. At this time, the Hong Kong student in the villa showed a worried expression. Li Qing used to tell her 2 or 3 days in advance when he came back, and now there must be something urgent to return to Hong Kong in such a hurry. Li Qing noticed her worry, pointed at the donkey hide gelatin and said, Brother Qi gave it to me. Brother Qi is here? Why didn't you come in? Hong Kong asked curiously. There is indeed something going on this time, a national matter. Is there any danger? Li Qing was interrupted by Hong Kong students before he finished speaking. She never cares about profit, only whether her man will be in danger. Don't worry, there are very few things I can't do now. Li Qing held Hong Kong Sheng in his arms and stroked her hair. Although he said this, a trace of solemnity flashed in his eyes. This matter is not as easy as imagined. If you want to get the Varian back, there will definitely be a lot of resistance. Can you not? Our wealth now is enough for us and even our descendants to spend a few lifetimes. Hong Kong Sheng buried his head in Li Qing's arms and sobbed. She is not stupid. When it comes to the relationship between countries, she is like a little ant. Li Qing sighed, hugged Hong Kong Sheng tightly, looked at the ceiling and said, the past cannot be undone, but the future can be changed. There are so many things to pursue that people will forget what they want most. Doing something within my capabilities for the country is what I want. In fact, Li Qing still had something to say. He also wanted to cover the coffin with the national flag 100 years later. Hong Kong Sheng looked at his man steadily, with eyes like a devout believer. My greatest luck is that I came to Xiangjiang and met you. At the moment when I was about to fall into hell, you appeared. You die and I die, you live and I live. Li Qing looked at Hong Kong Sheng's serious eyes and had no doubt about her words. As the old saying goes, there is no one in this world who can kill me. There has never been one before, and there will never be one in the future. Don't worry, we will grow old together. This time Li Qing didn't say any love words, and said the words grow old together in the calmest and firmest tone. Okay, in that case. Come on. Hong Kong Sheng smiled. Ah, Li Qing glanced at Hong Kong Sheng in confusion. Ah, what, you're paying public wages? Don't think I don't know that you stayed in Japan for so long just for business. Hey, so fast? Take a shower. Li Qing stayed in Hong Kong for more than a week. Every day, he and Hong Sheng were like ordinary couples, shopping, watching movies, buying groceries, cooking. The good days passed quickly, but Li Qing had to take people with him. The day for Mao to bid for the Variang was set. As soon as the news came, Li Qing began to instruct Tian Yangsheng and others in Mao to investigate the merchants participating in the auction. There might be blind people who came out to make trouble. Li Qing wanted to be foolproof in this matter. He knew the importance of the Variang to his hometown. The temperature in Mao in October is about 5-12 degrees, which is suitable for local people. As soon as Li Qing and others got off the private plane, they saw Tian Yangsheng and others waiting at the airport far away. Brother Cheng. Big brother. After Li Qing greeted the 7 people, he went directly to the farm. Tian Yangsheng and others have developed well in Mao. They have helped New World win 3 arsenals and are building 2 new ones. It was just because of the last time that the big firecracker stabbed the back, which made the Mao military a little dissatisfied, but Li Qing didn't care about this, it was just a matter of a few checks. Taking off his thick coat, Li Qing handed it to Tian Yanjin. Tell me, which companies are bidding for the Varian? Brother, I don't think things are as simple as imagined. You see. Tian Yangsheng, frowning, handed the information in his hand to Li Qing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 489. SoftBank in my childhood. Tianzu TT. Li Qing looked through the information and saw these 2 international capitals. Tianzu often regards itself as the 3rd military power after the beautiful country and Mao, but it does not have an aircraft carrier, which is really embarrassing for it. Knowing that Mao was going to sell the aircraft carrier, Baba rushed over directly to compete with China. Tianzu wanted the Variang, and Li Qing still understood that he was wondering why he wanted an aircraft carrier in his childhood. We don't even have a basic humming navy, so we're buying aircraft carriers to fill the sea? Haha, interesting, really interesting, Li Qing laughed softly, with a cold light flashing in his eyes. Since that's the case, let's have fun. He wants to see who is behind SoftBank in his childhood. Ah Sheng, help me give some gifts to President Mao and the Minister of National Defense. Li Qing waved to Tian Yangsheng and whispered in his ear for a long time. A look of surprise flashed across Tian Yangsheng's face, but he suppressed it quickly so that no one could see any clues. Brother, please rest first. After Tian Yangsheng finished speaking, he took the people out, leaving only Zhang Dongzhou and Wu Wu in the room with Li Qing. Brother, do you want to advance? Crow made a throat-cutting motion on his neck. Li Qing shook his head. Now that we are in Mao's territory, we still have to give Mao some face. It would be a bit inappropriate to rush to humane destruction. It depends on the situation. If these 2 parties really don't know what's going on, it's not too late to make plans. Li Qing was mainly afraid of affecting the bidding of the Valiang, which involved the interests of his hometown, so he had to think more deeply. If it was really the New World's own business, he would not be so polite and let Zairi and Tianzu's people disappear in Mao tonight. Eh? What's wrong with you, Crow? Li Qing pointed at Crow. What's wrong with me, brother? Crow touched his face inexplicably. Zhang Dongzhou looked along Li Qing's finger and saw 2 lines of nosebleed slowly sliding down from the crow's nostrils. Crow seemed to feel it too, and raised his head. "Xiu'er, bring me paper quickly." Zhang Dongzhou quickly took the tissue from the side and handed it over. "What kind of tonic did you take?" Li Qing asked funnily, thinking that Crow must have taken some big tonic like sea dog ginseng pills. "Ugh, brother, I haven't eaten anything. During this period, I just finished the donkey hide gelatin ointment that my sister-in-law gave me." Crow raised his head and tried his best to let the nosebleed flow back. Li Qing had a black streak on his head and looked at the crow whose nose was bleeding. "Maid, you dare to eat anything? Haha, I admire you. My girlfriend doesn't dare to eat more, and she only eats a little during my aunt's days. You actually eat it. I have heard of excessive blood loss, and this is the first time I have seen excessive blood replenishment." Zhang Dongzhou looked at the crow with a mocking look. Crow cried sadly, "I didn't expect that eating donkey hide gelatin ointment would heal myself." Li Qing glanced at him and scolded with a smile, "Get out of here, you are obviously doing nothing. Dongzhou, take him out for a couple of laps shirtless." "Hey, okay, brother." Zhang Dongzhou said nothing, and directly dragged the howling crow out. Li Qing smiled and shook his head, no longer caring about the two of them, but calmed down and thought about the Varian. Late at night, Mao Defense Minister Lenikov sat in the study room of his home with a frown on his face. The material in his hand was the list of people participating in the auction of the Valyang the day after tomorrow. According to the information, they were all large and powerful companies. Although he had a secret agreement with China, both he and the president were a little unsure about the decision. Now Zairi and Tianzhu are interfering again, and they both think they can raise the price. The only thing that made him unsure was whether he would offend New World. Yes, Mao is not afraid of the big country China, but he has concerns about Li Qing. New World has a lot of assets in Mao, and not only has mercenaries under his command, but also tens of thousands of workers. It would be a big deal if these tens of thousands of workers lost their jobs. And Li Qing, as a big arms dealer, was of great help to Mao. Even though they complained about being stabbed by Li Qing regarding the nuclear bomb, they still held their noses and admitted it. Now the price offered by Zairi and Tianzhu is not low, and the president is interested in trading it to Tianzhu or Zairi. Dong dong. There was a knock on the door. "Dear," the guard at the door reported, "that there is a Mr. Tianyang who wants to see you." Renikov's wife knocked at the door of the study. Hearing this name, Renikov's heart skipped a beat. He knew that it should be Li Qing who sent Tianyang Sheng. "Ahem, let him in." Renikov cleared his throat and said seriously. Not long after, Tianyang Sheng walked in carrying 2 black suitcases. "Long time no see, General Renikov." With the expansion of the arms business in recent years, Tianyang Sheng has come into contact with more and more senior officials of the Mao military, and of course communication with Renikov is indispensable. "Haha, sir. Long time no see." Renikov put a slightly exaggerated smile on his face, walked up and hugged Tianyang Sheng. After the two exchanged pleasantries for a while, they sat down separately. "General Renikov, you must already know that my eldest brother has arrived in Kiev, and you also know the purpose of my coming, right?" Tianyang Sheng looked at Renikov with a half-smile. A trace of uneasiness flashed across Renikov's face. "Haha, my friend, I won't know until you tell me." "Well, I'll host a banquet for His Excellency Li Qing tomorrow." "Haha, let's talk about the banquet. I don't think the general doesn't know what happened to Zairi and Tianzhu." Tianyang Sheng asked straight to the point. The facts were in front of him and there was no room for Renikov to lie. "Sheng, I just found out about this. I can only tell you that someone leaked that Hua wanted to buy the Varian. Tianzhu is sincerely competing with China, but there are people on the Xiaotian side who want to deliberately undermine China's military strategy." Renikov's face became serious, and he did not make any mistakes in this regard. After all, he was not obliged to keep secrets from other countries. "Who is behind Xyli?" Tian Yangsheng straightened up and asked. Renikov shook his head. "I don't know, but it's just those countries in South York." Renikov was a bit harsh when he mentioned Nanyu. Ermao wanted to join Nanyu but was rejected. He has always been worried about this matter. Tian Yangshen nodded and said nothing more. "This is a gift from my eldest brother to you and the president. I hope you will like it." Tian Yangshen patted the box. Renikov had long noticed the two suitcases, and his eyes fell on them from time to time. "It's so late, I won't disturb you." Tian Yangsheng stood up and walked towards the door. Suddenly he turned to Renikov and said, "By the way, my elder brother asked me to bring a message to you and the president. Mao is not the only choice in the new world is not to pick up the sesame seeds and lose the watermelon." Then, regardless of Renikov's expression, he pushed the door open and walked out. Renikov looked extremely ugly. It had been a long time since anyone had threatened him like this. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 490. It was not until Tian Yangshen left that Renikov calmed down and opened his own suitcase. There were only 3 things in the suitcase: a bearer Swiss bank check for $10 million and a gold Walther pistol. But what frightened Renikov was a gold bullet dyed red. The first 2 were gifts, and the last bullet was obviously a threat. "Damn, bastard. How? Renikov used anger to cover up his timidity. After venting in the study, Renikov sat dejectedly in a chair. Others might not know, but he knew that Li Qing could definitely do it. The terrorist attack in Baron and the assassination of Samu some time ago were all inextricably linked to Li Qing, and he didn't dare to gamble with his life. Renikov calmed down and opened the president's box, looked at the identical gifts, picked up the check and took a look. Hey, less than mine. Renikov's mood instantly improved a lot. However, he also knew that Li Qing's money was not so easy to get, and there might not be any tricks later, so he was prepared in his heart. "Come here," Renikov shouted loudly. "General, tell the Sturo Hotel to prepare a banquet tomorrow night. I want to entertain guests." He wanted to use tomorrow's banquet to show Li Qing his attitude. No matter what the president said, he would accept Li Qing's kindness. On the second day after Li Qing arrived in Kiev, he welcomed a special guest. "Hey, Qing. Long time no see." The visiting guest was not tall, a little fat, with a little beard, and a more friendly smile. No one would have thought that he was the richest oligarch in Ermao. "Ike. Ike, long time no see." Li Qing also smiled and greeted. The two hugged each other warmly, and Li Qing shook hands with Ike. Basically 60% of Ermao's people have deposits in Ike's Privat Bank. He specializes in money laundering for Ermao oligarchs and gangs, and has a very high status in the entire Ermao. It was actually quite a coincidence that Li Qing knew Ike. No one would have thought that the two met in the first-class cabin of the plane. They originally talked about some business matters. Later, Ike learned that Li Qing had some mercenaries in Ermao, and he was very happy because he happened to hire some people for some reasons. In this way, the two became partners. New World also got involved in other industries of Ermao through him, such as some oil companies that were about to go bankrupt. "You didn't say hello this time, and I still knew you came to Ermao through others. How long do you plan to stay this time? Do you want to go on vacation with me to the West Coast? Ike has a big yacht in Odessa in the West, and he goes there to vacation and party when he has time." Li Qing waved his hand and said with a smile, "Ike, I'm not here for vacation this time. I want to take down the Varian." Ike was stunned when he heard this, then lowered his head and thought for a moment. You have to help." Ike pointed to the east. Li Qing also nodded without denying, "I must do this." Ike shrugged, although I don't understand your approach, as a friend I will support your decision. I dare not say anything else, but my words still have some weight in Irma. Li Qing patted Ike's back gratefully. Thank you, this matter is very important to me. Li Qing did not refuse Ike's kindness. With Ike's help, this matter should be foolproof. Do you have time in the evening? Take you to enjoy the exotic customs. After talking about the business, Ike winked and said. When Crow heard exotic customs, his eyes lit up and he wanted to agree to it for his elder brother immediately. Let's talk about it after the auction. Renikov will host a banquet for us tonight. Who? Renikov. Then I'll go in the evening too. I have nothing to do. Let me tell you, Renikov is still a lot of tricks. Last time. Ike told with a beaming face, the jokes of Renikov at the banquet last time. The Staro Hotel is a designated hotel for Irmao senior executives to host banquets for distinguished guests. At around 7 o'clock in the evening, Renikov was chatting and laughing with others in the hotel banquet hall, but his eyes were constantly focused on the direction of the door. Today's protagonist Li Qing has not arrived yet, which makes him a little uneasy. Suddenly, a middle-aged and elderly man came in with two Asians. Renikov frowned and whispered, "Why is he here?" After greeting the guests next to him, he hurried to the door. "President Boshin, why are you here?" Renikov stepped forward and greeted with a smile. "Renikov, I'm here uninvited." "Do you mind?" Boshin continued with a smile. "Come, let me introduce you to this is Masakazu Kishimoto, the president of Zairi Soft Bank, and this is Mureya, the president of Tianzu TT Company." After Boshin finished speaking, Renikov's face immediately turned livid. This banquet was specially held for Li Qing. Didn't these two people come here to deliberately make things difficult for Li Qing? "President Boshin, do you know what you are doing?" Renikov sulked. This Boshin was also making him uncomfortable. Renikov whispered to Boshin's ear, "If you want to die, don't drag me." Boshin straightened his suit, looking nonchalant. "Others are afraid of him, but I, the president of Irmao, am afraid of him." After saying that, he took out the golden bullet from his pocket and put it in Renikov's hand. "He can't scare me, but he can scare you, a coward." After saying that, he walked in with Kishimoto, Masakazu and Mureya, leaving Renikov standing there panting. Renikov looked at Boshin's back. He didn't know what benefit the other party had given him to make him work so hard. But there must be something he didn't know. "Minister Renikov? Why are you standing outside?" Li Qing smiled at Renikov, who was in a daze in front of the banquet hall. Renikov came back to his senses after hearing the voice, and it turned out to be Li Qing. "Mr. Li Qing, I'm waiting for you." "Hey, Mr. Ike, you are here too." He showed a surprised expression on his face. He didn't expect Li Qing and Ike to come together. He obviously didn't invite Ike. "Humph, it seems that Minister Renikov doesn't welcome me," Ike snorted in dissatisfaction. "Qing and I are good friends." No, I'm just a little surprised that you came with Mr. Li Qing," Renikov explained quickly. He didn't dare to offend the biggest oligarch in Irmao, otherwise he could easily create a scandal for himself and step down. Then a flash of joy flashed across his face. He didn't expect that Li Qing and Ike had such a good relationship. This time, the president might be in trouble. "Mr. Li Qing, I have something to tell you," Renikov said a little embarrassedly. "Oh? Please go." "It's like this, I didn't invite President Boshin tonight." He told the story of Boshin bringing Masakazu Kishimoto and Mureya. "In any case, clear yourself first and don't involve yourself at that time." "Damn it, Boshin is getting more and more excessive. He is also investigating my two oil companies recently." Before Li Qing spoke, Ike next to him said with a resentful tone. "Haha, just right, let me see who the two bidding opponents are." Li Qing's face was calm and he smiled.